One, test it out. One. All right, so here we are 1 minute in, so I don't want to waste anybody's lunchtime on that. We're so appreciative you're here, and I'll have Matt kick the meeting off just because I feel like he has a better kind of radio introduction.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you everyone for joining. We appreciate you taking time out of your day or your lunch hour here to join us. We're very excited about what we want to present today, and based on the attendance of those of you who signed up, this is a very popular topic. I think this will be, well, it should be breaking our record for the amount of people attending one of these Tuesday sessions. So since we have so many new people on, I just want to mention that we do one of these every month, a virtual session like this, and it's always on a Tuesday, always at noon or 4 o'clock. So please join us. Now, every third month, like today, we try to do one with the CEU. So next month, if you want to block off your calendars already, on November 1st, obviously the first Tuesday of the month, we'll be doing our virtual session on sound assist, which is in my 20 some years in this industry, just one of the coolest accessories I've ever been exposed to. That will be released soon from Widex. So that will be the topic of the discussion on Tuesday, November 1st, again at noon or 4 o'clock. That one will be 30 minutes because it's not for a CU. So please block that off. And if you're wondering what sound assist is and whether it's worth your time or not to join, you'll hear Kyle talk about it today. But after you hear him briefly talk about it today, I think you'll want to block off your calendars for November. So I'm Matt Helmer. I'm based out of Wisconsin. I cover Wisconsin and Iowa for Widex, and I'll pass the torch over to Amanda to introduce herself next, and then Anna will go after that.
So I'm Amanda. I am the clinical trainer or clinical education specialist for Northern Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Dakotas. Anna?
Well, hello. So first of all, thank you guys. There's so many of you on here. That's really exciting for me. But I am Anna Cunningham. I'm your regional sales manager in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, coming to you live from Grand Forks. So, all right. That's all I have to say.
That's awesome. And then if you haven't been on one of these calls recently, I am Kyle Harber. I help manage the training team in the central part of the country. So Amanda and Laura and I all try to keep everybody educated in the middle of the country. And really, it's the best territory in case it was ever up for debate. So I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint, and we try to tailor this to as many attendees as we can. And so normally we say, hey, throw your questions in the chat and we'll make sure we get them. Today, I just want to make sure you know there's a ton of attendees. Everybody's wanting to learn about Moment Shear. So if there's a question that doesn't get answered, I will make sure I go through the chat and answer to you, or we'll make sure the reps send out those common questions of what's going on, because a lot of people are interested in the topics going on that side. So we'll try to make sure we hit it today. But if we don't, then I will make sure that you do get that information later on. So just if I could get one of my panelists to confirm we can see the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yep, you're good, Kyle.
Okay, excellent. So welcome to October's, I can't believe it's already October, October's virtual event. And so what we're going to talk about today is really the overarching theme of Moment Shear. So you might have seen it on LinkedIn. You might have a colleague that's mentioned it. You might have even worked with a little bit of it yourself this last month. But on September 7th, we came out with really a new launch of what was going on and a revamp of what we could do and how we can help your patients on that side. So I already told you who I am. We can skip right over that slide. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I like to do a little introduction so you don't feel like it's a complete stranger talking to you. So this is my family. I got a little 3-year-old Grace, 4-year-old Hudson there. He's the wild one of the family. And then my wife up at the top left and bottom left, she's a speech therapist. So she's always keeping me on my toes and up to date on research and where hearing and speech combine and how we can best help customers and patients in that way too on that side. So she works in the school districts, and I get a lot of extra exposure on that side. Because this week is a CEU event, I want to make sure I show this screen and I say it. So relevant financial relationships include that all presenters and everyone talking today are employees of Widex USA, and we all are financially compensated for our time and our efforts on that side. And there's no non-financial relationships among the team today. So with that, here's our agenda. The welcome. Hopefully you guys have felt welcomed with the introductions from all over the region and having a couple of trainers on here today. The Widex difference is going to be touched on because it's something we're very proud of. It's the pillars that we stand on as an organization. And it's what you want you to feel every time you encounter someone from Widex or a product from Widex. Then we're going to go, what is into the introduction of Shear? What is the launch? What does it look like? And how are these different aspects going to help you and your patients that come through your clinic on that side? And we'll go through product and launch sides as far as concepts. We'll touch on a little bit of research, but because we're kind of cramped on this 1 hour, if we don't hit anything, we'll make sure we bring it over to next month's with the sound assist on that part. And again, that's going to be November 1st. So I mentioned the Widex difference, and at each of my regional seminars I did this last month with launch, I tried to ask all the customers, does anybody know what the Widex difference is? And some new taglines and things like this, but nobody got all three, and that's okay. So I like to make sure I'm still reminding people. Our three pillars are going to be audiology ally, unique technology, and a premium experience. We want to make sure that in each one of these categories, we're shining every single day on that side. So Audiology Ally, we only work with independents. We don't support online sales. We don't support big box sales with Widex. And it's something we're very proud of. And that's how we think a best hearing aid practice is. And then when you look at unique technology, we're doing something different than everyone else in the industry. There's a lot of quality products out there, but we think we're doing something very unique, very premium for you and your patients. And then the last part is that premium experience. It's kind of crazy each time you call into Widex, or if you ever need a rep or something like that, how quickly we respond and are being able to help you on that part. I think the average hold time this last month was 3.25 seconds calling in on that part. So we want to make sure that we know your time is important on that side. And you'll see that kind of throughout the whole experience with Widex. So some launches in the past few years on different manufacturers and with Widex, it might be this new shiny object, a new RIC that's going to tell you all about how we're going to help you hear. And what we're going to focus on today is not just better hearing, but also applying it to better living for your patients and overcoming some of the challenges of that hearing loss, where the Widex Moment has already been a phenomenal product, and we've had a ton of success with it across the country and across the globe. So as we go through it, you're going to see really what is Moment Shear. You've been teased enough on this side, so let's jump in. There's three segments or unique elements, as it says. We look at the perfection of natural sound, and that really comes back to that unique technology. When we talk about the unique technology, we look really down to the chipset of what we're doing to perfect that natural sound as much as possible. This middle segment is going to be where we kind of apply it to better living. We're going to look at engagement and well-being. And then the last segment here is going to be modern design. When we look at modern design, I have teenagers constantly at my house, my little brother and then my little cousin. I say little, they're 17 and 20 at this point, but when they come through, they've always got some sort of TikTok, some sort of something going on their phones, and they're hanging out. And something that caught me off guard a few years back, and it's kind of maintained, is unboxing videos. When I was a teenager or younger, or even recently, I don't think I would spend my time watching an unboxing video, but it's something that's very popular among that generation and millennials. And I've seen many different generations using it now, later on that side. And so my goal is that when a patient gets a hearing aid, it is a premium experience. They've paid a premium price. You're providing a premium service. And it should feel like that product is so great that they want to film unboxing it, that it should look that good to them. And one of the examples that I like to give is when I buy an Apple iPhone, I always keep the box because I feel like it has some sort of value. It's an awkward box. It never has a purpose. It just sits on my shelf for 3 years until I sell it. But I can promise you, every time I put that phone back in the box to resell it 3 years later, it holds value. It makes that feel like a premium product. And so you're going to see not only just packaging, but also our product looking more premium as we move forward with a new design philosophy. So we'll jump into the first one. It's perfection of natural sound. With that, we're looking at better hearing and really the idea that a hearing can be what I call transparent. I want my patients to almost forget they're wearing a hearing aid. And that's a lot of people that are recognizing this phenomenon when they're wearing a Widex device. So when it comes to that perfection of natural sound, there's a few things that we're focusing on And one is taking pure sound to a new level. I'm going to review real quick what pure sound is for anybody that's new to Widex and just jumping in to see what's going on with launch. The next one's going to be spatial awareness on the research. So I want to touch on that and say, why are your patients coming into your office and how can we best help them? Where are they recognizing the differences going on? And then the last part is we want to look at sustainability and we want to look at consistency when I fit a patient with an ear tip. And sometimes those ear tips have more variability than we want. And so what we've done on this launch is just a small section of it is brand new ear tips. So I'm going to have a segment on that as well to kind of show you acoustically what's going on and how we can help your patients even further for the natural sound. So a comb filter effect is when you have a process sound mixing with the natural sound, and it creates a level of distortion that is hideous, but the hideous chart there on the right side looks like a comb. So throw a handle on there and it creates this crazy wave-like comb, and it's really caused from delay. So we call it a delay-based distortion, where you have those two sounds mixing in the ear canal, and they're just delayed enough to create sound waves that really the patient hears it as distortion. And just on a chart and a frequency response, that's what you would see as the characteristic of comb filter effects. And so the whole idea of that comb filter effect is how can we get away from it? And what did Moment do to solve the biggest problem in the hearing aid industry? They came out with what's called an ultra low delay. And we look at it and it's called pure sound on our side. And what that means is a 0.5 millisecond delay from the level of the microphone all the way through the speaker of the hearing aid so that the patient can get the sound as fast as possible to really limit how much delay is there and how much of that comb filter distortion that we talked about before. So on this chart, you'll see a y-axis there with a group delay, 0 all the way up to 10. The two bottom ones are Widex, and because we have two different processing strategies now in Moment, the bottom is a 0.5 millisecond delay, and the second one up is a 2.5 millisecond delay. Our closest competitors are using an average of about 6 and 8 milliseconds. There you'll see higher on the chart. That in third-party research, they're kind of ranking that as kind of acceptable, tolerable, and that's outside of hearing aids, just if someone's listening to a delay on any sort of recording. And you'll get a chance to hear those later. So when it comes to pure sound, this is the objective, and this is what we're looking to accomplish by speeding up that signal and getting it through the processing faster. You can see in the ear canal now, those two waves are joining together, and they're much more close in time so that we can have a smooth frequency response on that right chart rather than that hideous comb filter effect. Everyone wants a smooth frequency response, and nobody really, until the past few years, really recognized that there was a comb filter effect happening pretty constantly in hearing aids. Instead, we just knew it as that subjective response of, it sounds tinny, it sounds harsh, sounds like my voice on an answering machine, all sorts of things that are really hard to counsel a patient through. And typically the clinician would say, wait 24 hours, you'll be fine. But truly we've looked at here and we're trying to solve the biggest problem that was really around in the hearing aid industry. And we're having a lot of success with it. So when I showed you two different processing speeds, there's a reason for it. We look at pure sound for more of an open fit and a fit that you would normally have unoccluded. And we call an open fit anywhere from open to a double dome. And then when you're more occluded and have less venting or no venting, we start looking at our universal strategy where it has a little bit more delay, a little bit more processing into that signal to help our patients out with the most natural sound that we possibly can. And the whole idea that this bases it out of is a filter bank. And so in 1995, we released the first digital hearing aid to the commercial market, and we had to pick which filter bank we were going to use. In that decision-making process, we had to pick frequency or time-based, and we picked time. Everyone else in the industry, all the big six still use frequency-based. And because of that, it gives them more flexibility and more programming capabilities in certain areas. But because of it, they're limited in what they can do on delay. Because of our structure and those frequency bands, it really matters in what goes on and how fast we can get that signal to the patient, because it doesn't matter how much I clean up that signal for the patient. If it's going to be delayed, it's still going to be distorted. And it's kind of that cutting off your nose to spite your face there. When you look at the two differences, if it's the first time you've ever heard this quick talk, frequency domain filter banks, they all have to be the same exact width. Time domain filter banks, they can be customized widths. So we base our filter bank and our bands off of how the cochlea is formed. And so when you think of those hearing science classes of overlapping bandpass filters, that's what we're mimicking in the time domain filter bank, rather than really skinny, narrow filters and the others that create more delay. So for this quick one, I'm going to let you listen to the difference, and you can tell me or throw it in the chat or just think to yourself which one sounds best to you.
The easiest way to understand the impact of delay is to hear it for yourself. You will now hear a recording that demonstrates the impact of increasing amounts of delay, starting with the original signal.
For the panelists, is it playing the sound? I don't
with
hear it.
0.5, 6,
Yes, it is, Kyle.
and
Okay,
10
cool.
milliseconds of delay. Notice that lower delay, possible only with Widex, sounds more similar to the original signal. Longer delays, like those common with competitor devices, sound distorted.
The difference between hearing a sound and experiencing sound like no other is found in the subtle details. The difference between hearing a sound and experiencing sound like no other is found in the subtle details. The difference between hearing a sound and experiencing sound like no other is found in the subtle details. The difference between hearing a sound and experiencing sound like no other is found in the subtle details.
As you have now heard, the impact of long delay is...
So you don't have to hear the whole recording on that part, but thinking to yourself, these are, again, I want to make sure that you know, these were not through hearing aids. These are actual recordings of exactly 0.5, 6, and then 10 millisecond delay. And it makes a big difference even with perfect perception and overlay. And then you have to bring in amplification and processing that could potentially muddy it up even further with distortion on that side. So just something really to think about. And if you're going to have a patient where you're looking at maybe they have a frequency and a time-based, it's good to at least have a Widex option in the office so that patient can experience both options there. And really, what does it matter to the patient is what matters is they're hearing with their brain. And so if they're hearing with their brain, we look at really at an envelope following response. And what this is going to show us is how well a patient can hear in noise, or it would at least suggest that they can hear better in noise with the better envelope following response that they have. When we compared the different delay times with that moment technology, we were able to see that the moment technology in the blue was able to track peaks and troughs much more clearly than the two competitors on that side in this graph. So it's not just a pretty cartoon. It's not a pretty picture of the ear canal. We do those things and we make those precautions in the ear canal and the cochlea and what we do with a time domain so that we can have a clear signal to the brain. So natural sound feels right. And when I think about it feeling right, I think anytime I walk in my house or I walk in a familiar area and I know what it sounds like. If someone were to move a chair or furniture, you can immediately tell if the acoustics change on that side. But we keep hearing from patients over the last couple of years that anytime they're listening to pure sound through the moment devices, it sounds natural, it sounds clear, it just sounds right. And they would use these adjectives, and they're really hard adjectives to show within research. And so we're really at the tip of the iceberg of how we can explain these and how we can show them objectively. But I'm going to show you a quick study here of our very lonely concert. So this guy's playing an instrument, looks like a guitar, I would assume, on that side. And you look at the echoes going through the room. And our brain already knows that there's going to be echoes. It already knows that there's a direct signal and there's different time gaps and what's going on. And it's used to hearing different time gaps and delays and echoes based off of its environment. So if you'll think about sitting at a bar, walking in your house, going to a schoolroom, going into a hotel is a very unique sound on that side. And so you understand that if you're inside or if you're outside, the acoustics are going to be very different. The echo is going to be different. And that's what you're used to hearing. So this would be kind of an example of what you would see in room reflections of that direct sound, the initial time delay gap, and then the early reflections, and you can kind of see that sound dissipate. And this is what the brain is used to hearing. And if I think about that, it's already a lot of information to process because there's constant signals coming even before and after this one signal that we're looking at. And if I apply this to the whole idea and extrapolate from delayed amplified signals, you can look at how muddied this would get for the brain. Is not only do you have the original signal, now we have a delayed and amplified signal that's confusing the brain, not necessarily to the point that they can't understand or don't have a good signal to noise ratio, because our competitors, they do have good signal to noise ratios, and they do well in presenting that signal to the patient. But sometimes you understand speech, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound natural. And the reason is because they're getting really this delay, and they're getting essentially two signals at once. And so it doesn't sound like they're at home anymore. It doesn't sound like they're at that specific environment like it did before they were fit with amplification. And so how are we going to put numbers to this? The whole idea is that we're going to look at accuracy for this. So we're going to bring out our old friend KEMAR. And in the study method, we put KEMAR in the middle of the room, the back middle of the room, and the back corner of the room. And by doing that and hanging the hearing aids on and letting the patients listen to the recordings through those hearing aids, their only objective there was a 3 alternative forced choice. That means all they have to do is pick out the one that sounds off. 2 of them are going to be the same. They have to say which one sounds different. The more they get correct, the more accurate, the more natural we're portraying that as, because if they can get it correct, they can discern the difference of what's going on in that room from the 3 different locations. So the higher in accuracy, the better on this category. And so hearing aid 1 and 2 were pretty close, and then Pure Sound significantly was scoring higher on that side and showing that they were more correct on the percentage, and patients appreciate it. And we've been hearing it for a couple of years, but it's fun to see those numbers applied to it on that new research. And it gives you more tools to talk about this with your patients when they have those questions, especially those engineers and musicians that always want more to talk about and more information and when they're describing it, and asking you about your opinion and your professional stance on different technologies along the way. So we look at those 3 aspects. Subjectively, people love moment, but we're starting to be able to apply numbers to why do they love moment, what's keeping that sound preserved, and the accuracy on it. So if we're going to have accuracy and we're going to have sustainability and less variability in the ear, well, we're going to look at what different vents and different options can we give you in the ear canal. We already have some great options, and this one hurt my feelings just a little bit because the medium tulip is my go-to. I love the medium tulip. I've had so many great fits with it. It sounds best on my ear, but everyone's unique. And we want as much consistency as we can possibly get in this category. And so when we look for flexibility and giving you a spectrum of different tips, because around 90% of fits or more in the US are using instant tips. And so what we're doing is bringing 3 brand new styles of tips and then different sizes among those styles. And so you can't quite tell on this top one, but an open round is at a slight angle up there. It has 2 huge vents in the middle. Lets the patient feel nice and transparent, where some patients might have been bothered by the spoke wheel. That's what I call the open dome that we currently had before this, compared to the sleeve vented and the sleeve power. I think of the sleeve vented and power as before and after a double dome when you look at occlusion. And the sleeve power has really opened up more capabilities for a really good snug fit where you don't feel too occluded on that side either. So if you don't have these in your clinic, and I don't believe they're on back order by any means there, but we want to make sure that you try it on your patients, and maybe it's a new solution for a patient that maybe a double dome didn't work for, or the open dome was bothering their ear. So just more solutions on what you're looking for and why we did them. And it's all about the consistency and less variability. And you're going to see that kind of all throughout the product when you fit it, when you look at the software, when you look at recommendations. And you can kind of get the whole spectrum all the way up into a custom mold now on what's going to apply to that patient and what's going to work best with their particular anatomy. So a quick story on this one, the sleeve power example. This was actually my boss's father. He's been wearing Widex for a number of years, and he's been having to wear custom molds because everybody knows we go all the way down to 5 dB and somewhat purposely open ourselves up to feedback so that we can get the articulation and the naturalness of sound, but so also we can get that good quality speech with what's going on. We believe in sound quality. We want to do everything that we can do to preserve it. And so what he loved about this is he was finally able to switch out of a custom mold because the double dome simply didn't work for his ear. He used the sleeve power. He had headroom, and he was successfully fit for the first time outside of a custom dome in a number of years. And so absolutely loved it. I know you guys see patients like this all day, every day. And so I highly recommend trying out that sleeve power and seeing if it's not applicable for those patients that, you know what, they're just kind of tired of feeling bogged up, or maybe that patient that returned hearing aids because they couldn't stand it being too occluded on that side. So when you look at different recommendations in the software, if you aren't familiar too much with Widex, you'll always see this compass logo throughout the software, and it's just offering a recommendation for what that different hearing loss is or that different scenario. You'll see it in different aspects throughout the software there. So what you're going to see throughout, especially at the beginning when you're picking the physical fit of that hearing aid, is based off the configuration of that hearing loss, different types of tips that are going to apply and be recommended. Now, that's all to say that you're the clinician. You see their ear canal, you see what they need. And so I want you to trust your professional opinion over this. These are simply the recommendations for someone that might be newer or unsure of a certain fit and when to use what dome. So when it comes to that, the perfection of natural sound and the key messages are really, we're looking to continually perfect that natural sound for you and your patients. And we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on what you think on that side. The next part of this launch is the engagement and well-being, as we mentioned before. The whole idea here is better living. Over the past few years, I've been stressed. I guarantee every single person on this call has been stressed at a certain point and gone through a number of things, whether it's COVID, whether it's home life, whether it's work. Life is stressful. And so we're looking at what can we do to help out with not only stress, but helping me hear in all different situations, not just hearing speech better in my private practice. So there's 3 aspects of engagement and well-being. They're going to help your patients in a number of ways. So MySound 2.0 is going to take the technology that we've seen proven and successful in the field and take it to another level with brand new attributes. Sound Relax is going to help out all patients, not just our tinnitus patients, but it's the new evolution of Zen. And then the last aspect there is that Sound Assist that Matt and I are going to keep teasing throughout it because it's truly an incredible technology that we're going to be able to introduce to you on November 1st. So MySound 2.0, what it's going to do is take the technologies. If you're not familiar with Widex and what we've been able to do with MySound, I'm going to give you a little feedback here where we can help you out and where you can talk to patients about it. But we brought this out in 2018. It was called Sound Sense Learn. And patients went through and they would listen to A and listen to B, and they would say which one sounded better. And through this scenario, they could help themselves out without knowing anything about audiology, without knowing anything about how to fit a hearing aid. But at the end of the process, they were able to help themselves out in that situation based off of intent. Intent is the critical part here because through any sort of artificial intelligence, the hearing aid's going to get it right a lot of the time, whether I'm in a restaurant, whether I'm in a quiet setting, in the car. It's really good. It's trained really well when it comes to most brands. And what we're saying is, what about that 5% of the time, 10% of the time that it didn't get it right? And the patient, maybe I'm sitting in a restaurant, maybe I'm at a wedding, a graduation, a concert. I don't want to listen to it get it wrong for 3 hours. Instead, I can teach those hearing aids what I want to hear in that specific situation. And so we took that initial information, all the data went to the cloud, and we were able to speed it up even further to create MySound. What we're going to do is take a little bit of a step back when we add this new attribute, bringing in the A to B comparisons again that are available to all patients, and bringing in a brand new attribute of what they can do. And up until this point, it's been using an equalizer. So bass, middle, and treble. And based off of that equalizer and different levels of gain, the patient was being able to be helped in those difficult situations. And adjusting those handles can help a patient quite a bit. Because we had so much success there, we're going to apply it to compression now. And when I talk about compression, I'm not talking about the different gain levels. I'm really talking about fast compared to slow acting compression. So we all know Widex inherently, or if you don't know, I'll let you know, Widex inherently has always been a slow attack release time company until the Evoke came out. And then we became a dual action company so that we can do both simultaneously and help out the patient for whatever scenario that they're in to the maximum of that technology. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, when would they use both? And my patient doesn't know anything about compression. That's the beauty of this. All they have to know is which one sounds better, A or B, and the hearing aid's going to help them out with compression. So maybe in a specific classroom, they need expansion or they need compression depending on the scenario. The hearing aid doesn't know that scenario. And so they're going to spend that time teaching it just quickly. They can save it, they can geotag it, they can do so many things with this ability. And so as you can see, we have that slow compressor working in tandem with the fast compressor. It's going to come and sum there at the end. But as a little review for you, slow compressors are better for preserving your temporal envelope and really getting the best possible sound quality that you can get. But their one con is anytime you have loud noise or transient sounds in a situation, it can sometimes cover up the soft speech that really that's what they need amplified. And so they start missing things and struggling conversationally. Many brands in the world only use a fast compressor. And the really neat part here is being able to use both, but then giving the patient the tools to use both if the hearing aid's using the incorrect one for their intent. The second one, fast compressor, like I said, it's going to help them in those complex situations where the 1 weak point of a slow attack release time. So now you get the beauty and the benefits of both, whether it's the distortion on the temporal envelope or poor sound quality. There's a time and a place for both. And so through this A to B comparison, again, the patient doesn't have to know anything about audiology or how to program hearing aids, but they can help themselves out. It saves you a follow-up appointment, and it empowers them to want to wear their hearing aids because they're not unhappy for that time period when they were struggling before. Here's your quick example of really that classroom setting of, am I trying to hear what's up by the board or am I trying to hear what's close by? And so depending on that, you start looking at what's going on and how I can best help that patient on fast and slow acting compression. And then an extra little surprise is it's actually been out for about 4 months or so. My favorite thing about it coming out 4 months earlier and not telling anybody is it gives us a chance to find the bugs before you do. And if I can find those bugs before you do, everyone's life is easier and everyone's happier at the end of the day. But I also put this slide in here to remind me that so often I would put patients in a box, and this box would be, oh, they're too old to work an app. They're not going to know it. They're not going to be able to do it successfully. And what we're able to do in this situation is we brought just a little simple cartoon because everyone loves cute little cartoons in an app. All they have to do is hit play. It's going to teach your patient how it works and how they can empower themselves in those difficult situations. But also, we definitely recommend counseling and helping them out. But the whole idea that I bring that up is I've seen 104-year-olds use my sound and Sound Sense Learn successfully. And a lot of times we would say, oh, well, they might be too old or might be too young for this situation. I also have 4-month-old babies where their parents are able to go in and help with directionality and this and that. So the app is still useful in different situations throughout that site. So just a quick screenshot here. You're going to look at selecting where you're at, what your intent is, and how you're trying to optimize it. Waiting a few seconds, and then having 2 recommendations. If those 2 recommendations don't work perfectly for the patient or better their situation, that's when you can go down to the bottom and you're going to see Sound Sense Learn. By selecting that, it's really going to let them create their own sound and customize it through the equalizer and through the compression level. So one of my favorite things about clinicians is going to be how well you guys can interpret different patient experiences. So a lot of times a patient will come in and I'll be in an office helping out with a fit, and really most of the time people don't need my help, but I'm there just as a backup or a second set of eyes. And they'll come in and they'll describe what's going on. And clinicians are able to just take those adjectives that mean nothing half the time and really translate it to how can I best program this for my patient to make them successful. So this recording here, you're going to see a patient, a very particular musician that's going to go through and fine tune everything. And he came in with a really odd adjective that if he would have told me this adjective, I might have just shown him the door at my clinic because there's no way to program that. It doesn't really mean anything to me. And he was able to go in and help himself out, but it was all based off the prescription that the clinician helped him with. So take a look at this video, watch it, listen to it, and then try to tell me or guess in the chat what you think his adjective was that they had to translate. You can notice on the progress bar at the top, it jumped all the way to the end from when it was pretty close to the beginning. I'll talk about it in a minute. He names it groove, he picks an icon. You can geotag it, you can add your own picture. And you can hear the difference there. Depending on your computer or your phone speakers, definitely some variables there. So that's what his equalizer looked like at the end on that side. And this is a musician, he knows what an equalizer is, but there's a lot of variables and patients that don't know. Also, if he had told me the specific adjective, I don't know that this is what I would have done. But any guesses on what his adjective was when he came in the office? I know there's a bunch of people in here, so normally it's more conversationally. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the answer is. He came in and he said, I want the hearing aids to sound more somber when I'm listening to this type of music. And that might tell you guys something on that side. It doesn't specifically tell me. I went to University of North Texas for audiology and dealt with a ton of musicians, and I never had that specific adjective described to me. So a little bit of fun there to show you that all patients can use this. And one thing that I wanted to touch on is there's a progress bar at the top, and one that encourages patients to keep going. But two, on him, it really got hung up at the beginning. What the computer is looking for in the phone is consistency. And so it got hung up because he gave contraindicating responses. And so it got hung up until he gave more of a consistent response so that it could help him out further. As soon as it lined up, it jumped all the way to the end. So his was a little bit more elongated than what I would expect for a typical patient on that side. So then we get to sound relax. I've always been a huge fan of Zen. I have a ton of patients that are very successful with Zen. And really, I've always focused on tinnitus patients with that. And that's what it was built for. That's what it's there for. And it's all based off the fractal mathematics of Zen. And when I say fractal mathematics, the whole idea is keeping new stimuli coming to the brain so that they know what's going on and how we can best help them, but really to keep the brain focused on the music or the fractal mathematics instead of the tinnitus that they're experiencing. With this new evolution of Zen, we're looking at it being called Sound Relax, as I said. It's a brand new setup of it where I'm going to not just help tinnitus patients, I'm going to help all patients because all of us need to relax more. All of us need to be helped with concentration. And those two attributes together were proven to be helpful for these patients after listening to just 10 minutes of Sound Relax. And so when we look at those, the three really main purposes of Sound Relax is going to be well-being, where I mentioned that relaxation and concentration. We're going to describe what it is and what a soundscape is. And then I've had the question time and time and time again in offices, my patient loves pure sound. They do so well with it, but they're a tinnitus patient and they really want to use Zen. As soon as it switches to Zen, it used to switch to universal. So in this last segment, I really already just spilled the beans on it. We're able to use Pure Sound as a base program and help those patients out that did appreciate the lack of distortion and the naturalness of Pure Sound. So under well-being, the idea here is any patient that's going through a stressful situation or needing more concentration, well, really that just describes me every single day, whether it's toddlers running around the house or I'm busy with work or class or something like that. I could always use less stress and more concentration. And stress is linked to a lot of terrifying things that would give me even more stress just to read the list, whether it's Alzheimer's or heart disease, asthma, diabetes. A number of these can be pretty frightening to have, and things that we all hopefully try to avoid on that side. In steps music. Everyone that I know of appreciates one form of music at least. And when it comes to that, music can be very relaxing. It can have very profound effects to help you and your patients out on that side. And it's not just audiology, it's not just hearing aids. As you can see just in the simple picture, playing a record, playing a CD for those audiophiles that say it sounds different on a record, and it probably does. They can really sit down and enjoy music. It's something that humans love. And it's actually something that a lot of living things can thrive off of. When I was preparing for the Audiology Online course, I was doing the recording for it. And as I went through, I was reading a bunch of different research articles to add to that side. And my favorite one was that plants actually give a better crop if they're around music. And so what they found is a music with a beat around 60 hertz the plants produced more fruits, more vegetable, more flowers, depending on what they were. And it was pretty consistent with what was going on there. So it's not just humans that enjoy music, plants even enjoy it, and they don't even have ears. So that was, to me, was pretty profound and really cool. On our specific study, when we were working with humans, we let them listen to it for 10 minutes. We let them listen to which one was their favorite. And then we had them rank based on their favorite ranking, what their liking, their well-being, relaxation, and concentration were. All of these participants were listening under headphones, and half had tinnitus and half didn't, or really close to half. When it came to the findings, though, my favorite part is that we finally found something that Americans agree on. They all really love Sound Relax. And when it came to that, there was about an average of 9 across all categories on a 10 scale. And so with that, patients are loving it, and it actually ranked higher than Aqua. And if you've used Zen at all in your clinic, you'll know that Aqua was a huge favorite. It's actually based off of pop music. If you were in Amanda's talk a few months back, she went over what are the different music types and what are Zen's based off of. The other one is going to be that soundscapes are a combination of fractal and wave-like sounds. They really appreciated the difference there when it wasn't just the fractal mathematics, but it brought in some nature feel to it. And there's a huge correlation between liking it and then relaxation and concentration for that patient. So I don't know about you all, but again, relaxation, concentration, always going to be helpful for me, whether it's work or home or anything. The second part is going to be soundscapes. And in the past, you've been able to add noise to Zen tones, but typically it's just white noise or it's notch noise, which can both have their time and place and be helpful. But soundscapes is taking it to a brand new level. So there's 8 brand new stimuli that your patient can use, or you can use if you're just bored in the office and need that relaxation and concentration. There's 3 segments. So 2 of them are going to be just fractal tones. The middle 4 are going to be combinations, so fractal tones and wave sounds. And then the last 2 are 2 options for nature or wave sounds there. When it comes to those different stimuli, different people have different preferences, obviously. And so I'm going to let you listen to a couple of them. And we'll play Fall and the theme of pumpkin spice. So you'll notice it sounds a bit different than Zen used to. And some people love Zen, and it doesn't mean that Zen's going anywhere. If they liked their Zen, they can keep their Zen. But if you feel like they're just tolerating Zen, or maybe they're looking at a different stimuli that might help them further, tinnitus can be changing and helped by a bunch of different stimuli. Maybe they're using the app right now instead of using their Zen. These can be brand new soundscapes that are going to come in and help. And then let's listen to one more. Let's listen to Spring. And as you listen to it, you can hear those wave sounds mixed with the fractal tones. So that patient gets both stimuli coming in, and it's helping all patients, not just those tinnitus patients. When it comes to clinic, I don't want to make your fittings take 2 hours instead than the typical 1 hour on average that we see. I do not want you going in and having to play every stimuli. It doesn't mean you're not welcome to, but I want to save your time. Your time is important, and we appreciate you being here today. When you look at the different objects here, you're going to look at, there are recommendations, but there's also defaults. And so if you were to activate Relax Plus or Zen Plus, you're going to see that these auto-populate with one of each category for your patient: breeze, autumn, and swells. And I say, hey, just throw it in there. Let the patient go once you get the right intensity, and say, hey, come back at your 2 or 4 week follow-up, whatever you do, and tell me which one you preferred, and then we can dig deeper and customize it even further for you. But everyone hears differently, and they might appreciate differently in the real world. When you get into the software, this is what it's going to look like. Before you would have seen just Zen down here. Now you see Zen /Relax and then /Relax Plus at the bottom. So very easy to recognize. This is under your program manager for those that are a little bit newer to Widex. And then it got a nice facelift. As I said, modern design is coming all the way through the product here. And those old music notes were starting to look a little dated. And so as you look through here, you'll have different colors and different waves of sheets of music. But you can see that your Zen tones are still available there at the bottom. and then your relax styles are available at the top. You can plug them into A, B, or C just as you could before. And there's a little zoom in of what it is. On some of these slides, you might see it say autumn. In your software, it's going to say fall, just a little Danish translation going on. And here's the other, if you do a standalone, you're going to have winter if you pick fractals and blossom if you pick a combination for your default. When it comes to customizability, you're going to have more options than you probably even want. Your pitch, range, tempo, timbre, and then your default wave sounds. And so whatever you want to produce for that patient, you can. If you have that engineer, that musician, or the dreaded engineer that is a musician, they can customize to their heart's desire. They can go in and find what's really best for them. And then us normal people also. And then when you come to your different, this is what it would look like in practice within the software of how you can adjust and go across. You can pick your different noise stimuli there at the top right. You'll see it highlighted. It's not just noise. You can now put wave noise into any of them and then adjust those volumes independently of the whole program. If you have those patients that are just there for this stimuli rather than amplification in this specific program, you can turn off your microphones too by unchecking that box. When it comes to the app, this is what it will look like. Very easy. Relax A, B, and C, Zen A, B, and C. And then I don't know about you all, but I've had panic attacks before and anxiety. And the worst thing that someone can do to me if I'm having that going on is say the word, oh, just relax. It's almost condescending to the point of, oh, you can't figure it out. Just relax. You're fine. So someone smarter than me got ahead of the game and they have the smart speak say relaxation instead of relax. And then Zen if it's switching to a Zen tone. For the just because of time today, I'm going to touch on this part that Pure Sound is just a new bass program that you can have. If we look back a couple of slides. Oh, no, it didn't show it on that part. Sorry. You can see that there's a new bass program slot. The actual slot was already there, but Pure Sound can now be as the program bass. If you want to activate that, you can simply click the gearbox, or in your session start and your customizability, if Pure Sound is already set down as P1 for your defaults, then Pure Sound will default as your program bass. If it's not set up that way and it's defaulted to P2, Universal will be your program bass on that side. But you can adjust it accordingly. Some people like music as the bass. Some people like quiet for the slow attack release time. Everyone knows what they want for their patient and different options, and feel free to play around with that one. And then as Matt said, and as I've been hinting at, the star of the show and really just the cherry on top of the launch is Sound Assist. This is going to be a robust accessory that we'd love to tell you about here on November 1st. We encourage you to come back. You'll see links and QR codes this month that you can sign up for that course. It won't be the full hour because it's not the CEU course, but I'm going to walk you through what is Sound Assist, what all can it do for you and your patients. And then on top of it, I'll do a software walkthrough with one other function of this launch that I'm not talking about today, where we can replace the partner of a hearing aid without a patient being in the office. So we're listening. We like to get your feedback and how we can make the clinic more successful. And so that's just one extra tool. This is going to be my little tease. It's multifunctional, obviously, I would hope so. It's going to facilitate communication in difficult environments, and then it's going to work retroactively or backwards compatibility wise with all Bluetooth Moment devices on that side. So it's not just for your brand new patients. This is going to apply for all your patients already wearing Moment. The last part, as I encourage, and I'm just waiting for the day that I start getting these unboxing videos lighting up my phone, as I mention it in all the trainings, but the modern design. When I open that product, it should feel premium. It should look premium. And don't be that clinic that just takes the hearing aids out of the fancy box and throws them in the bag. We put a lot of thought into that process, and we want it to look good for you and the patient. And I promise they'll be wowed by it. You can still if you want, but I think that there's a lot of thought and a lot of things that go into it that the patient will appreciate. So what does that modern design look like? Here on the left side, you're going to see the MRIC got a facelift. You'll see a kind of a new modern philosophy there on the back side of it with the microphone ports. It's now called the SRIC. And if you were ever bothered by a dust cover on our old default charger, We have a brand new default charger, better weight distribution, brand new stand, no dust cover. It looks sleek. Patients are going to love it. If you're one of those practices that only uses the charge and clean, that's awesome. I think they work really well for patients, but this is about 30 or 40% of the market here. So there's still plenty of people using the standard charger. In the middle side, you're going to see the new box. They're calling it a jewel box. My favorite part is not that just it looks better, but it has the button release in case your patient drops the hearing aids, they're not flying out and potentially getting ruined. The TV place got a new facelift. And then again, we'll talk about that sound assist this next month. The new boxing, if you haven't already seen it, will blow you away. It has embossing, it has writing on the inside, it has perfect sets, it has the nice pull out and really good presentation to the patient. So I think you're going to enjoy it. That's the new family on here. And overall, that's the sheer launch, guys. And we're happy to see questions and throughout that part, we want to give you as much clarity as possible. So feel free to send those out to trainers and reps along the way. Here's your close-ups. The new packaging, you can see a little bit better in that image if you're not watching on your phone today. The TV play got a brand new face. It's more of a high quality fabric than the metal screen. And then your sound assist is tiny. If you saw it next to the hearing aid before, we already have the smallest hearing aids on the block as far as rechargeability goes. And well, we also have the RIC-10, but when you look at them side by side, this accessory is tiny and it's robust in what it can offer on that side. So questions, thoughts, anything you guys want to add? And panelists, feel free to hop back on and add anything that I might have missed along the way.
Kyle, there was just one question. I'll just read it to you. Is the
Sure.
dual compressor available in a cross device?
So if you're using an Evoke cross, the cross would be able to utilize that dual compression. With the Moment lineup, there's currently no cross, and I don't think there's any plans to be a cross until our next delivered chipset on that side. So the answer is yes and no. So if you have an Evoke cross, yes, it would be able to utilize the dual compressor of the Evoke technology. That's when our dual compressor came out. Great question, Jenny.
Okay. And Kyle, just for a second, while we're waiting for potential other last minute questions here before we wrap this up in the next 5
Sure.
minutes, is giving a little teaser on the sound assist. Again, for those who joined late on Tuesday, November 1st at either noon or 4, we'll be revealing the sound assist. But Kyle, you've had a chance to play around with it a little bit. Could you just maybe touch on a couple of highlights as a teaser for those to join back and join coming up in November?
Yeah. So from what I've seen of it, it's and I wasn't one of the chosen. There are a few people in the U.S. that have got their hands on it, and I've spoke with them on the training team. Very small, very functional on that part. And the one teaser that I saw that we couldn't do before, if your patient has an Apple Watch or a Bluetooth watch that they use with a GPS or whatever to take a phone call on, you now can go on those walks and runs and things like that and take calls without taking your phone with you. So just one of the many things that it's going to be able to offer for patients, but that part blew me away. And my other teaser is if your patients have purchased MRICs in the last couple of years and maybe they started a new church or they started going to a performing arts center and they were frustrated, didn't have a telecoil, well, it's also going to have that solution built in to help them out in all those different scenarios. So everyone needs an assist, and we're excited to see it get utilized.
Yeah. And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does pair to any Bluetooth device as well, correct?
Any Bluetooth device through Classic Bluetooth. And I'll go over kind of the details of the distances and the strength of it this next week, because it can have a number of Bluetooth relationships there. Oh, Alicia has a question. Will the new Zen sounds be available on the Zen Tinnitus app? Great question. So the Zen Tinnitus app has not changed, but you'll have full access as long as your patient has 1.5 update that's the firmware update for the hearing aids. And then you're in GPS 4.4 on the software. So then you'll be able to enable it and they'll use it through the Moment app on that site. And I don't know if the Zen Tinnitus app is going to get an update. I'm not privy to that level of news. But overall, guys, we're setting records each and every month, I feel like, and this was a huge turnout. We appreciate you coming out, and you can expect certificates in the next 3 weeks or so. I'll pump out as many as I can, and the more attendees we have, the maybe a little bit more time to make those certificates for y'all. But we're just so appreciative of you being here, and we hope to see you back on November 1st and keep the Central region being the best region.
Yeah, and for anyone who would like more information, Kyle basically took his 3-hour presentation and condensed it into this 1 hour today. So if anyone would like more information on any of these things, please let us know and we can fill you in on more details, either Kyle, Amanda, or whoever your RSM is. But again, we hope to see all of you on November 1st at the same time. Again, only 30 minutes, but same start time. So thank you for attending. Anna, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add in.
Well, now you put me on the spot, so I will just reiterate, please reach out to me. If you want me to come to you, I am more than happy to do that. And I am COVID free and I test every week. So great to see you here. Thanks so much for coming.